You know, I think this is how I need to open up every single video now. Especially if it's morning time, because I always have to have my black coffee. But, you know, this thing, it's so ready to race that it's already popping wheelies without even moving. Look at all of that air. That being said, I think we have an issue here. There's not supposed to be cords showing here, and, well, there's cords showing here. You see, every time I drive this car now, I smell burning rubber from the front tires. Yeah, so, this thing's about to get a nice suspension rebuild. So behind that tire was all of this fancy worn out suspension. There is some fancy, you know, red pads here, but, you know, what good is that whenever all of this right here, I mean, this bushing is completely shot. That one over there is as well. Apparently I'm getting a phone call. I'll answer that in a minute. Yeah, it's shot. Ball joints are gone. I'm gonna replace everything on this. You know, I hate that I have to continually rag on the people that built this car, but look at this. That is a nail, not a cotter pin, a nail holding this together. Seriously, how hard is it to go to the parts store and get the correct thing? Sometimes I want to punch the person who built this car. I'm not going to tell you where I want to punch him. I'll let that go to your imagination. But yeah, getting ready to pull this stuff off. And as always, things aren't what they should be. So getting ready to pull these tie rod ends off. Got, you know, all the brake and everything pulled off. So this little tool right here, I swear, makes these so nice, because you barely have to put any pressure on it. It'll pop out. Check this. Bam. And it's out. If you don't have one of these, get yourself one of these. So I'm getting ready to take these adjusters out for the torsion bars, or, you know, loosen it up as much as possible. But I noticed something. See, this oil pan is covered in oil on the bottom. Like, where in the world is this coming from, you know? I just resealed this entire engine. Well, guess what I didn't touch that has a nice trail of oil coming right down from it. Yeah, that's why you go through and fiddle with everything while you have it out. I guess I'll get to mess with this again later, huh? Alright, got the adjuster nice and loose. Gonna get that done on the passenger side, then I'll start taking all this front suspension apart. You see, he's never been happy with the sound of this car, but I quite dig it. Hey, guess what? Everyone's favorite feature about A-body idler arms? This car has it! Yeah, we'll get that fixed. Got a new one. Moog! Just the brand that you gotta order from eBay now, because, you know, or Rock Auto, places like that, because the local parts stores don't keep it. Well, I got all the linkage off. Getting this bolt out for the pitman arm was interesting, and yeah, I'm good at things. I didn't even smack it, I just pinched it, and, well, I cut my finger through the glove. The glove was barely even ripped. Yippee. I guess I get to bandage up my finger now and flip people off. Hey, look at this. Well, we definitely got a pile of tools here. You know, pretty much anytime you work on stuff, this is what you end up having. But I am at the point now where I've gotten every bit of the steering linkage out. This right here, I'm trying to get this busted loose. I did get the lower ball joint off of the spindle, but now I'm going to try to get this upper ball joint out, you know, off the spindle once again. So it's kind of fighting me. I went and grabbed my earplugs that way I could bang on the side and not go deaf. Because the last thing I want to do is not be able to hear, you know, my girlfriend's child, or music, or, you know, the sound of the car. Yeah. Keep your hearing. Don't destroy your hearing. Don't do like I sometimes do. Got the spindle off of here, which is, yeah, that's pretty nice. Came off a little easier than I thought it would. It eventually just went as they always do. But now I'm trying to get this upper ball joint out. So I've been heating up on this control arm because it's kind of stuck. been heating it up. Finally just kind of, you know, scuffed it off with a wire brush, poured some penetrating oil down into this little crevice that you could just kind of see there. Now, of course, with this being a Chrysler, this is a screw out ball joint. So yeah, you got to have this fancy socket here and 3/4 inch drive breaker bar with plenty of extension, because yeah, those things are always tight. So I'm gonna let this sit here and soak for just a minute, and then I'm gonna come back at it. All right, so I didn't get anywhere near as far yesterday as I thought I was going to, because yeah, someone foobarred along the way. These ball joints have been replaced, and when they got replaced, they got put in slightly crooked. So these are actually cross-threaded in the control arm. This side is touching, over here there's a gap. So yeah, I can't get these out on either side. So what I'm gonna do, these really aren't too bad. I'm just gonna clean up the boot, put it back together, replace all my bushings and lower ball joints and everything, and leave these uppers in place for now, because I plan to go to the drum brake setup anyway. Speaking of drum brake setup, there it is right there. So as you can easily tell, I'm not gonna be running these upper control arms. Uncle Tony did this to these control arms. Yeah, I'm not running this for my car, considering I'm actually going to drive it on the street a little bit. So I do have to find some early A-body control arms, and of course get the correct socket to put ball joints in, because I have the B-body socket, not the A-body socket. So yeah, that'll be in due time though. I'm going to put it together with all my other stuff, with the control arms and brake setup that's on it for now, and you know, run it until I eventually find the correct control arms and decide to swap it all over. Finally getting to feeling right. I'm on coffee number 4. Of course, you know, black coffee, the only way to do things. So I'm gonna sip on this while I start getting this thing broke the rest of the way down. Got to get all my front suspension off, so that way I can replace all the bushings. And you know, we'll see how hard it is to get these torsion bars out. I have a tool that I made back whenever I was in machining class to get torsion bars out, but I don't know if it's going to fit on these, because this was a slant 6 car, so it probably has the smaller torsion bars instead of the bigger ones that the B body has. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna get to this. I got to glove up since I'm all hurty. I don't want to mess up my finger even more. So yeah, anyway, we'll get this off. Cat, how am I supposed to get any work done if you won't let me stop petting you? Seriously, it's crazy that he's being so lovey-dovey. You would not believe how easy these just came out. Like seriously, I just loosened the nut off, took all the stuff off, put it back on 2 or 3 threads, and just tapped it with, of all things, the end of my pickle fork. Slid right out. I mean, come on. If this isn't amazing, I don't know what is. They never come out this easy. All right, so I'm at a point where it's about time to get this torsion bar clip out, so it's really easy. Usually there's a little piece back here that kind of caps this. At the very least, it's that way on the B body. I don't know how it is on the A body. But you literally just take a pair of needle nose pliers and pop it out. Now, this torsion bar should be able to come out, as long as, you know, it'll make its way through all the muck and it's not stuck in there. And yeah, in all likelihood, it's probably going to be a pain to get this out. But I'm going to give it a shot to use the pry bar trick on the lower control arm to push it out. Everything else is disconnected up there. The lower control arm is ready to come out. You know, I've got the strut rod unbolted up front, so it should slide right on out. You know, I didn't give this method a hope and, you know, whatever you want to say of working. But I put this pry bar in here, which, you know, has some decent length to it. Gave it a little nudge, and I'll be darned, it came right on out. Check that out. I am so impressed at this. Let's see if it'll actually come out of the torsion bar. It's coming out of the torsion bar. I am so impressed at this. Wow. Yeah. I guess I'll like grab some vice grips or something, grab a hold of this and try to back it off that way. I may, looks like, have to do some clearancing to my header, because yeah, it's not wanting to come out past the header. Big block A body problems. It'd be so nice if they just came right through here. Don't mind my fuel line. That's I'm gonna redo my fuel system before too awful long. This is just preliminary. You know, folks, I gotta say, I'm actually rather impressed at how not bad these lower control arm bushings are. I figured this thing was just gonna pop out as soon as I pulled this whole setup apart, but I'm actually gonna have to fight to replace this. So yeah, I could say I'm actually kind of pleased with that. All right, so I'm getting to a point where I'm having to do a little bit of thinking on this. How in depth do I want to go with this project, considering what I have found? So, lower control arm bushings are nowhere near as bad as I thought they were going to be. I thought that they were just going to be completely shot, and well, actually they're serviceable. I can continue to use them for a little while longer. Another thing that I found is that this here strut rod is bent right about here. There's a nice little bend in it. So eventually I'm going to have to replace this strut rod. Probably going to have to replace the other side. I might as well just go ahead and get 2 new strut rods so that way I can have, if anything, a spare. On top of that, there's also the fact that I'm going to be digging back into this suspension at some point soon anyway, so that way I can put the drum brake setup on the car, because I am doing that. So what to do? I think what I'm going to do is kind of lower my expectations on this and just get my upper control arm set up with fresh bushings, because that's honestly the biggest part of the problem with this car is those upper control arm bushings are shot. And then just put all fresh steering components and everything, get it aligned, and send it. That'll make my time frame easier. Everything I found thus far, other than those upper control arm bushings, is usable. I'll go ahead and put new lower ball joints on, because I have ball joints. I might as well put those lower ones on. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, I should be getting my leaf springs later today, so once I get those in, that'll mean that I can get to the rear end of this car, fix the rear end, and have my super stock leaf springs on. That's going to make this car grow up a lot. So here's my homebrewed method to get these control arm bushings out and back in. I use the same way to press them back in. So it's just a piece of 3/8 all thread stuck through with a 3/4 inch piece of pipe, or 1 3/4 rather. Big old washer here, slightly smaller washer there, and I just use that to suck it on through. It works great. That's how I did it on my satellite, and it's how I'm doing it on this. So yeah, feel free to copy it. So this bushing housing refuses to come out. So here's what I did. This is actually the end off of the bushing, the end, the side that goes towards the inside. So I'm just going to set this right off in there and drop it on the ground probably 100 times. Set it right off in there. I'm going to zap it with the welder real quick to get that to where it's nice and solid. And I'm going to use that as my basis to be able to pull this on out. Because, yeah, it's not coming out the other way. I had to cut that all off because it was swedged out a bunch. So, yeah, I'm going to get this done. Of course, get actually geared up, not in my rubber gloves. And then I'm going to get it out. Finally got that to come out. It was quite the interesting thing. I had to weld the crap out of that to get it to stick, and it took some effort, but I guess all's well that ends well, right? So I'm gonna clean this all up, get my new bushings pressed in. It's basically just a reverse of what I did here, and then throw it back in the car after I do a little cleaning up. Motivation's kind of low. Maybe I just need to use my lucky wrench a few times and make all this just magically be done. Oh, by the way, I got this from a 3-year-old. Got the upper control arm bushings in. Didn't show that for one major reason. It was a pain on this. They sit at a slight bit of an angle on the A body control arm compared to the B body that's fairly straight. So it was a little difficult to get these set in. So with that though, they are the offset style. So you can see this one over here has the arrow pointing towards the front of the control arm. That means that it sits in a position where it actually kicks this side forward, whereas the other side I have the opposite. It points to the rear, so it actually brings this one rearward. What that is doing is giving me more caster, kicking the ball joint that way, which gives me better caster angle and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna put the little ends on this thing, get this thing set back in the car, and then get to the other side. Cats, why do you like being on all of my parts so much? There's an empty box right over there. Y'all ever just get low on motivation and things take way longer than they should? I forgot there was a ball joint in there. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So this is day 4, and I have this side mostly put back together to the point where I just need to, you know, wheel bearings and all that stuff to put my rotors back on and my calipers on. But the other side, mind you, day 4, I should be on the rear end by now, but I'm taking my time and being slow and everything because, yeah, this is the point where I'm at. I still haven't even gotten that close to being on. So, yeah. Yeah, and I didn't do any recording yesterday because I just had no motivation to do things. So I basically, hey, you know what? Let's just get it done. I did notice something though. This piston's a little cracked right here, right there, a little bit over there. So yeah, I'm gonna be swapping to my drums eventually. By the way, I did take these out. Who needs bump stops on a race car? Jamie. Cats, y'all take a stock of what I have left to put on the car? Because, you know that's front suspension parts, right? You know that, OB, don't you? Let's say, look at that face, but you can barely see him. He just looks like a shadow. What about you, Topaz? Gonna boop the camera? Yeah. Anyway, I got both the tie rod ends set up. It's all set up. I got my idler arm sitting here. Just gonna throw it on over to the back of the car. Why did I say the back? I'm in the front. The front of the car. At least you don't think I'm stupid. Because you have no brain. And look at that. It's a little jumping spider. I like these little guys. Anyway, you can see where I've gotten to. I went ahead and got all my rotors and bearings and all that stuff good on the car. Brakes are back together so that way I can hit the pedal and not have to worry about blowing pistons out. The other side is done indeed as well. So now I'm going to get to my old nemesis, the one that caused that. Yeah, I'm going to get the idler arm on to the car so that way I can clean up my center link, which is sitting over there, and then get everything bolted back up to where I have steering again. Then it'll be set the car down and get to the back. Yeah, front end's back down on the ground. I got all the steering linkage and everything set up. I put it to where it's 12.5 turns in on the torsion bars from, you know, just baseline barely touching. This side looks pretty close. This side looks like it's a little bit higher. And of course the tire is kicked in that way quite a bit. So the front end is definitely going to have to come back down a little bit to get my alignment right. Plus, I mean, just look at this. That's a pretty good amount of wheel lip opening there. That's quite visible. The tire barely fills that up. I need to set this back down. The rear end, though, of course, is going to get lifted by means of these here super stock springs. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the rear end section of this before I get to fiddling with the front, because that can wait a little bit. This needs to be fixed so that way I can actually move the car. You know what's funny is how much people love to hate on the fact that this is how I jack my cars up. Yeah, it takes a little longer, but it's more reliable. Whenever you've had as many hydraulic jack failures as I've had, you start just wanting the simplicity of a screw jack. And eventually it does indeed work. What say you, cat? Getting so dang big. A little chubster. Anyway, car's up off the ground a little bit, so getting ready to pull the back wheels and tires off the car. Already got this side loosened off, got to get the other side loosened off. So of course part of the plan is to put these here leaf springs on the car, but another part of the plan is to fix what foobarred the other day. Yeah, you see that drive shaft angle? That's not supposed to be that way, as we all know. So yeah, that slipped a little bit. No one said that my welding skills were the best, so I'm gonna get this all cleaned up and put some much better welds down. I'm actually gonna pull the rear end out and all that good stuff, so that way I can get that fully welded on. Yeah, I fully intended to fix that at some point anyway, because I knew that it was not gonna hold up to full power with sticky tires. But these aren't even sticky tires, and it did that barely going up a hill. So you live and you learn. I'd never done this before, and now I know not to do that again. By the way, if anyone from the Mopar Misfits is watching. Yeah, I do actually own one of these. William, you don't have to try to make me borrow yours all the time. And it sure helps on these super long lug studs to have this thing, even though this is the first time I've ever used it on this lug stud setup. But what do you know? I undid the U-bolts, got them all off, and the rear end decided to go pretty much back home. I need to tilt the pinion back up a little bit, get this tacked back into place, but at the very least, it's close to where it wants to be now. I may end up resetting my pinion angle, and I don't know. Definitely gonna swap out my leaf springs real quick. I'm probably gonna set this thing back up to where it was, tack it back into place, tack the purchase back on so that way it won't move around too awful much. Get my leaf springs undone here, get the rear end out after I undo the, oh man, I'm gonna have to redo that. Yeah, get it all unhooked, get it out of the car so that way I can fully weld those up. So here's the point that I'm at right now. I have to actually get this all taken apart, get the axle out. Gonna have to break the line off the back here to get the backing plate off, so that way I can actually have access to the perch back there to be able to weld it. And then of course, once I get it all nice and welded up on both sides, then I'm gonna swap leaf springs out and start bolting this thing back together. Yippee! So by the way, you would think that this would be an access hole to get to your nuts to hold this thing on, and it very well could be if this was a smaller pattern, but I used a big old Ford, whatever you call it, axle flange, which uses a 1/2-inch stud on the back, so you have to fit a 3/4-inch socket through, and it doesn't fit. So luckily I have these handy dandy swivel wrenches here. Swivel-headed ratcheting wrench from Mac. I actually bought this off the tool truck whenever I worked as a machinist. This thing has been a lifesaver in so many ways, especially whenever it comes to this, because I would take forever with the regular wrench on this. So anyway, rear end's not bolted down, so I actually have to hold it to get these broke loose. So I'm gonna get that done, get the other side, get the axles pulled out, and go from there. On to the other side, and while I'm doing this, I'm also checking out to see exactly how I want to cut open this wheel well. Because, this thing does not have enough tire clearance, so I'm going to cut it down to where 3 fingers down from this here body line is going to be the highest point of this wheel lip. So it's going to move from here up to about here. But I also have to cut out some radius into it and whatnot. So it's pretty interesting looking in to see just how far I can go. I've got a good 1/2 inch between this lip and here, and then I'll just kind of follow it along and kind of do the same thing here, about a 1/2 inch back on this side, and just cut it down to where it's looks right. Anyway, gonna finish getting this all taken apart, get this axle out, finish welding up that side right back here, and call it good. By the way, you shouldn't have to use this to get your axle out of a 9-inch, but for some reason I do. All I could figure is that the housing ends got a little warped, so it made it to where the bearing's a slight press fit. They go out and come back in fairly easily, but yeah, I still have to use a slide hammer to get it out. On a little side note, something did change up here. I actually have a proper water pump pulley now. You see that? It's not driven off this little electric motor. You see, this thing was causing me some problems where this engine is just overheated every single time I've driven it. And a lot of it, I believe, is that this doesn't spin it fast enough. So to try to alleviate that, I have proper water pump pulley getting driven by the engine with, look at this. This fan is off of my Pinto. It's actually the factory fan that was on this thing. Designed to be used without a shroud. So don't y'all go saying, oh, you're being a cheat and whatever. It's not supposed to have a shroud from the factory. The car never had one. It has one now, but that's a different story. But yeah, gonna give this a shot, see if this will help to alleviate my overheating issue. Got my purchase fully welded up. Now I have this side jacked up so that way I can get this leaf spring out. Of course, this being an A-bodied Chrysler, there are 2 bolts way up in here. I already got one of them out. The second one just right there. So I'm gonna get these out of here, and then this thing's just gonna drop to the ground. Make sure your knees are out of the way. And as if by magic, 2 bolts are out and leaf springs sitting on the ground, just like I said. Now I just have to get those bolts out up there, and we'll get this whole shabam out, replace it with my fancy super stock springs. Got one super stock spring in. Now I just got to get to the other side. It really wasn't too awful bad. I may actually show you all a little bit of how I did this for the next side. I should have taken this clamp off, but oh well, I can take it off while it's on the car. All right, hold these springs out. Now, oh, what do you know? That's wonderful. This was loose. It was fairly touching. Oh, that one's loose too. That's great. So it's amazing the things you find on your car whenever you're messing with something that you haven't touched yet. So yeah, anyway, get this all off, and then we're gonna knock this out, get to the bracket on the other side, which will include using my impact, which I do in fact own, and yeah, make quick work of this stuff here. Bolt, meet, impact. Yippee! Now I just got to put a wrench on the other side. The fun side to do, because I'm right-handed. But you know what? Getting this all put back together, that's what matters. It helps out that I've had this apart before, because I actually pulled this whole thing right here apart. Pulled it off the car, got it all unstuck. Back whenever I first pulled the 7 1/4 out of this car in favor of this 9-inch. Because it was easier just to drop the leaf springs to get the 7 1/4 out than it was to try to fish it out this way. Well, I cut it shorter just for you, Dad. Just for you. Actually, it was mainly for me. Yeah, my father was making fun of the fact that this had a stud that was like this long still, because I didn't cut the shoe bolt down. And I got tired of hearing about it, so a mix between that and how big of a pain in the behind it was to do this particular job right here with it that long, well, I finally fixed it. So once I get these 4 nuts tight, this thing's securely mounted again, then I can lower it down and tighten those up on both sides, as well as these nuts on both sides. Wheels on, about to drop this car all the way down to the ground, and get the wheel on the other side, do the same thing, and then we'll see what this car looks like whenever it's actually on its weight. Then we'll go ahead and tighten up all the bushings and whatnot, so that way we are good there. She's back on the ground. It didn't give me as much clearance on the tire as I thought it would, but then again, it's not going to do a whole lot. At the very least, the car does sit fairly level now. I still have to drop the front end down quite a bit, but you look at it from the rear, used to, the car was tilted that way. So the passenger side was down compared to the driver's side in the back. Now it sits fairly level, but the front, the passenger side was down significantly and the driver's side was up. Kind of the same as it was over there. And it was sitting that way because of the fact that this torsion bar was cranked ever so slightly lower. Quite a bit lower than the driver's side, so it caused this car to just tilt like that, you know? But now it should be good. I have to set the ride height to the correct height. I'm actually going to set it to stock style height, you know, measured based off the distance from the ground of the ball joint to the ground to the pivot point and the control arm. That's how you do it from the factory. And I know on the B body, I believe it's like 1 5/8. This A body may be like 1.5 inches or something. I don't know, I'll look it up in the book. But that'll mean that I have to find a nice flat surface, which the ground here certainly is not. Nice flat paved surface. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Oh, and I started bleeding again earlier. Yeah, the wonders of a busted up finger. Look at that, I got all 3 kitties in one shot. Yeah, they hadn't been bugging me quite as much as the last episode on this car, but they've still been bugging me a little bit. Especially old Marble here, he's been getting kind of lovey-dovey. Of course, OB is always down for some loving. So I got the battery charger all hooked up to this thing, because for some reason this thing had no charge in it, and it's sitting at 26%. And what do you know, I'm getting a call right as I'm trying to record. Alright, since it got dark last night, I went and made a new wire. This right here is a fresh wire for the leading set of points in this distributor because the old one had no continuity across it. So now I actually have a working dual point. I also took the carburetor off last night so that way I could drop the bowl, drop the the metering block out of the front, get it all cleaned out, get it wiped out, because it did have quite a bit of gunk and just debris in the bottom of this here front bowl. I'm sure that there's some in the rear as well, but I'm trying to get this thing to drive right now, and I only had gaskets for one set, so yeah, I just kind of threw it back together after cleaning the front. So with that, now I am going to try to set the car back down. I have the torsion bar adjustment 12.5 turns in. I'm going to turn it out. I think I'm going to go to 11 turns. I'm going to go 1.5 turns back out to make it towards 11. So that way it'll set the front of the car back down and give me kind of a baseline. At which point, after I get the car set back down, I'm going to, kind of eyeball it, see if it's close to the ride height that is going to be correct. And then these wheels are ever so slightly turned in, towed in. And by ever so slightly, I mean they are very much towed in. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to have to end up pulling them back to where it's towed out a little bit more. Just to where it's reasonable, Oh, and I wish I'd gotten a good before and after on the rear end situation. But, looking at these leaf springs, they seem to have a lot more arc than the factory ones did. So maybe it's just a matter of perception because of how low down this here wheel lip is. It makes it seem like it's not very much higher, but I think it actually did raise the car up quite a bit because looking at it from the back, it looks mean now. Believe it or not, but one time I was actually ASE certified. Granted, it was a student certification, but still, American Society of Engineers, I believe is what that ASE stood for. They actually felt that I was quality enough. I passed all the tests and got certified. Obviously, I decided not to follow that path. I drive ambulances instead, but, I did it. I got all the certifications needed to get into the career of working on cars. Yeah. Therefore, little stuff like this fancy tool, I actually know what it does. Yeah. So, with that, strut rods are tight. I need to actually tighten my upper control arm bushings now that I've got the right height close. My camber looks quite a bit better on both sides now that I've dropped it a turn and a half on the torsion bars. And now I'm going to kind of do a preliminary toe adjustment here, right there on that fancy sleeve. I'm going to turn them in quite a bit so that way my toe will toe out a little bit more, because right now they are towed in significantly. Hopefully I don't have to pop the inner tie rod ends loose from the center link and turn them in, because I may not have much range of adjustment left on this, honestly. I got to thank my buddy Brian for giving this to me, because that fancy air compressor setting on this here jump box has come in handy a lot for me. So I know you're going to watch this. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Alright, I just got to show off my ingenious way of measuring my camber at home. So I just have this piece. It's actually a ground straight edge. You see, this side here is actually ground to where it is completely flat. Back whenever I had access to a surface grinder, I made this. So just a piece of, what is it, about 1/4 by 1 inch steel plate here. And I just take it and I set it right about like so. And then I wait until it starts to read and I look. And I already did both sides. This side shows to be 1.5 degrees of camber. The other side is about 2 degrees. So I'm going to take the other side and just bump it out a little bit. This side I'm going to leave alone. Another little side project that I did was installed all these riv nuts here so that way I can properly mount my coolant overflow. So that is something I started doing last night. I just had to go get another riv nut because all I had was these two. So now I have all 3 mounting points for this thing. I'm going to get it bolted in, and then we'll See if I can't get this thing fired up. All right, car's as ready as it can be. I did go ahead and bleed the brakes in the back so that way my brake pedal works. I don't know how stiff it is, but it works. Now, let's give this a shot. Boom, power's on. Fuel pump action. Making noises. All right, looks like we're good. No geyser of fuel out the front or the back. And let's see, doesn't look like I'm leaking fuel out of the fuel line, which is, you know, everyone says that these fuel lines leak like crazy. I really never have any problems out of it. Maybe it's just my luck versus other people's luck. Now that I say that, the next time I pull that off and put it back on, it's gonna leak like a sieve. Let's see if that battery has enough juice left in it to fire this puppy up. Power on, or ignition on. Guys, I think my battery's about toast. Because I charged it up all night. And now it won't even crank the car over. Yippee! Well, we're here again. Shows 75%. I swear, you know, I had this thing charging like crazy last night. But I'm going to let this thing charge for a little while longer, and then I'm going to go, while this is, you know, happening, do some other things that just need to get done. I really need to get to cleaning this crap out. So maybe, while this is happening, I'll clean out the trunk of the satellite over there from all the camping stuff, and then use it to haul some of this crap. Or maybe I'll just use the Impala over here. I don't know. Finally says 100%. I did have to put it to 8 amps of charge to get it to go above 75 though. Once I hit 8 amps, it started charging right up, but at 2 amps just wouldn't move. So with that, get this unplugged here. Yeah. Now we'll try this again. Power on. Notice I actually cleaned this out a little bit. All right, making sure we don't have spurts of gas. And we're still good there. What are you doing in my seat? You're not me. All right, my voltage is actually looking halfway decent, almost 13 volts. Now, ignition, pump, pump, crank. Yeah, what do you know? It's already dead. I'll try jump box. All right, jump box is going. Should hear it beep in a second here. Shut up back there. Anyway, let's see if maybe it'll do something. Long enough to let the charging system try to charge the battery, cooling system, you know, check and see what's going on. Ooh, that's almost nothing. Yeah, see that? This battery's done, which is a shame because it's only 2 years old. But I guess this car right here just finally put it through its paces enough to where it's finished, plumb finished. So yeah, I guess I get to go replace this thing, because 2 days from now I hope to be driving this car up down Main Street. You know, I'm doing something I never thought I'd do, and that's modifying a battery with a hacksaw to make it fit into a battery tray. You see, this is a different size battery from what I just pulled out of the car, and reason being, O'Reilly did not have the correct one, so I'm having to use this one. And it was slightly too wide, so now I'm cutting off this little foot so that way it'll actually sit in my battery tray. Luckily, I brought my battery tray with me so that way I could see how much I needed to trim. So yeah, I went ahead and got this. It should start the car just fine once it'll actually sit in my battery tray. Try this again. Let's see. Does it show good voltage? It better. That's a brand new battery. Ooh, yeah. Shows almost 13 volts. Does it crank? Oh yeah, she cranks. Still doesn't run the best, but that's as hot as it got, so it's better than it was. I'm probably gonna have to just take the carburetor off my satellite over there and throw it on this thing like I did whenever I drove it to that customer appreciation day thing. So yeah, but at the very least, it didn't hit like 230 like it usually would have by this point. So maybe it's better, just maybe. And at the very least, that's actually wanting to crank. So something I'm gonna try to do to see if it helps out this whole situation is blow air right in here, right where the you know, the item mixture screw goes. So maybe this will do something, maybe it won't. Get the spraying out the way. Off camera, I went ahead and ran it for a little while. Blowing those passages out did not change a thing. I don't know. It's going to take some fiddling to get that figured out. But on the plus side, with the whole mechanical fan setup, my charging system is actually a little more stable now because I guess the brake angle over the alternator is better. But it is actually, you know, it's still getting warm just sitting here, but it's pulling enough air through, you know, with this fan to where it's actually keeping it halfway cool. Like, it got up to 210 and it crept up real slow. Compared to what it used to would do, I mean, it had already been at 250 by the time it was to 210 here, so I'd say that that's looking to be a win. Once I get to actually make some test drives up and down the road, then we will see how big of a win it is. But, you know, only time will... You know, I'm starting to realize something. This car to me is kind of what that Turbo Slant 6 thing that Jamie from Dead Dodge Garage had. It's basically that Turbo Slant 6 car for Jamie. But, you know, that's this is it for me. You fight, you fiddle, you tinker, and it never changes. But I will make this thing work. No matter what, this thing will work. At the very least, I can drive this down the road a little bit. It doesn't do too well, but I can do it. With that, though, yeah, I don't know what we're going to do from now. This car has a pretty cool stance. You know, the fisheye doesn't do it justice, but it has a pretty cool stance just sitting here with the super stock springs. It raised it up just enough in the back to where it actually, like, has a bit of a muscle stance. Granted, the wheel openings are not nearly big enough, but we'll rectify that in due time. Yeah, I am digging this car. You know, every step along the way. You know, it's crazy looking back 10 months ago whenever I got this, because yeah, it's been 10 months in, let's see, it's the 16th today, so 6 days from now I will have had this car for 10 months. Yeah, it's cool to me to see how much this thing has transformed since then. From just a hulk of nothing worth using to, hey, I have an engine that runs. Not well, but it runs. I have a car that actually drives down the road with some good gearing and a good rear end and everything, and it's like, it's actually starting to be a decent combination. Many people will disagree, but I like it. I'm also just now noticing that there's supposed to be a Pentastar over here. I thought, I don't know, maybe 74 didn't use it, but I could have swore there was a Pentastar that was supposed to be here for this year. Next on the list, though, brand new tires. Maybe not brand new, but new for this car. And probably ditch these wheels. You know, who said you can't drive your old cars everywhere in the rain? I mean, come on! Who else that race their cars to the Triple Crown drive their cars as much as I do? I'm calling all of y'all. You know, whoever y'all are. I don't even remember who everyone is. I bet the garbage can Cuda doesn't do this! I thought I was showing up to a car show, but it seems everyone else was a bit of a loser and decided that the rain was too scary for them. At least I'm not the only one that was late. There's 4 cars deep here that were late. They're all donks. Ones are getting pulled by this 6-door pickup. All right, cruise nights tonight. So one thing I'm going to be doing here is pulling the carburetor off this and swapping it for the one in the satellite. Because, yeah, still not the best. Still having problems out of this, so I'm going to run my 700 that I know works great. Yeah, I still got to take all that apart though. You want to be on camera? You're already on camera.
I am on camera already.
So she got to drive my Impala for the first time a minute ago. I forgot the camera though, so we didn't capture that on film. How are you feeling about that?
I'm still nervous.
Still nervous. Yeah, she gets to drive the car to Dragon Main because I'm going to roll around with her in the Impala, and the Scamp over there is going to just be there for show. Now the carburetor swapped over, put plenty of gas in this thing, and I'm going to move this thing over to go rinse it off a little bit. I feel so upscale. I've never had someone to run the camera for me. Shifter's giving me problems.
Didn't set off my car alarm.
Do what?
I said you didn't set off my car alarm.
Oh. He's just a little angel kitty, isn't he? You lost it. How dare you, Topaz? How dare you? Alright, so wheels and tires are all nice, cleaned and shined up. That's what I'm trying to say. On both sides. Don't mind that car over there. We don't care about that. We're trying to do away with that thing. And yeah, it's looking pretty spiffy, I must say. I always dig the black on black with the steel wheels a little better, just because that looks sleek. I mean, come on, look at that. Raised white letter tires. The letters just pop. It doesn't quite do that as much with the aluminum wheels. But she's gonna be ready to roll around town here in just a little bit with none other than her driving there anyway. All right, gave this car a quick little bath. Didn't bother to pull all the crap out because why would I? It's going for exhibition only. So power's on. Gonna go ahead and fire this thing up and get to Main Street. My lovely, absolutely wonderful girlfriend's already in my Impala. It's running, ready to go. So I only have to make it 1.5 miles. Well, she finally made it to Dragon Main. I got people calling this thing a Winnebago engine, let me tell you. But I decided to park next to the, you know, them other cars just to show them what a real race car looks like. You see a blown big block Chevrolet with a parachute and a Vega. That's not race car enough. It ain't race car enough. That Mopar over there, that's a real race car. So it's very windy outside, so I'm just sitting in the Scamp for now. But I just figured I'd make an ending to this video because this is about as far as I'm gonna go. So this car, it made it around Main Street a little bit, went up and down, made a pass, drove it home. Charging system was good, all the lights worked, everything was great. It actually drove pretty straight down the road, which is good for everything just being kind of an eyeball alignment up front. And it didn't overheat. It hit 190 going down the road and just stayed there the entire time. So I didn't get a whole lot great, but I got a few things fixed in this car. I didn't get any video of the event really because I was just more focused on having a good time with my girlfriend, you know. So sorry you missed a couple burnouts, but it was late at night and you wouldn't have been able to see much anyway. So with that, hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll catch y'all later, probably with some satellite videos.